The first time I died, I was laughing. Cruel, isn't it, how life loves irony? One moment I was convinced the world owed me everything, and the next, my throat was full of blood while the man who once hated me most held me as if I were the only thing worth saving. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my 18-year-old body, in a world that still hadn't broken me yet. Only this time I knew what was coming, and I burned with the vow that I would save him, the Alpha Doctor who sacrificed everything for me, even if it meant clawing my way through destiny with my bare hands. His name was Ethan Hayes. In my first life, I despised him. He was brilliant, too brilliant, the kind of man who carried the world on his shoulders and never asked for help. I mocked him, challenged him, even hated him because he reminded me of everything I wasn't. But in the end, when the fire swallowed me whole, he was the one who didn't let go. And he died because of it. Now, standing in the crowded hallway of an American high school, locker doors slamming, students laughing, and the scent of cheap cologne thick in the air, I clenched my fists. This was the beginning again, my second chance. And Ethan was just a few miles away, still in med school, still untouchable, still doomed unless I changed it all. The thought of facing him again made my chest ache in a way I hated to admit. He wasn't mine. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But in this life, I wasn't going to waste the chance to keep him alive. I first saw him again at the community hospital near my neighborhood. He was younger here, his jawline less sharp, his eyes less haunted. He wore his lab coat with the kind of careless elegance that made people stare. Even the fluorescent lights couldn't dull his presence. And when his gaze fell on me, for a split second, I thought he remembered too. But not his was just me, cursed or blessed with memory. "Are you hurt?" he asked when he saw me hovering by the clinic doorway. His voice was the same, rich and steady, the kind of voice that made people believe things would be all right even when the world was burning. I nearly laughed, nearly broke, because I remembered that same voice telling me to live when the flames devoured us both. My throat tightened. I just needed some air. He studied me, his brow furrowed as if searching for a diagnosis in my eyes. And then, with that infuriating calm of his, he said, "Don't stay out here too long. The air is worse than it looks." Just like that, he turned back inside. And my heart, traitor that it was, thundered against my ribs. It wasn't easy, shadowing a man who had no reason to notice me. Ethan was focused, driven, the kind of alpha who left people in awe and frustration. His professors adored him, his classmates envied him, and the patients trusted him even when he was still a student. But what they didn't know, what only I knew, was that he was walking straight into tragedy. In my first life, Ethan Hayes became the youngest surgeon at St. Vincent's, saved countless lives, and then threw his own away protecting mine. This time I would change that, even if it killed me. One evening, I found him on the hospital rooftop, staring at the city skyline. The wind tugged at his coat, and for a moment he looked like a lonely sentinel guarding a fortress no one else could see. I stepped closer, my shoes crunching against the gravel. "You're not supposed to be up here," he said without turning. "Neither are you," I shot back. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. That earned me a sideways glance, sharp and assessing. "You again." I lifted a shoulder, feigning nonchalance. "Maybe I like rooftops. Or maybe you like following people." His lips curved faintly, not quite a smile, more of a challenge. Heat rushed to my face. In another life, I might have snapped at him, stormed off, fed my pride. But now I just wanted him alive. "Maybe I'm curious," I admitted. "About you." That startled him. I saw it in the flicker of his eyes before he masked it. "Curiosity is dangerous. So is saving people who don't deserve it," I whispered before I could stop myself. His gaze sharpened. "What did you say?" I shook my head quickly. "Nothing. Forget it." But he didn't. I could feel it in the weight of his stare, in the silence stretching between us, filled with words neither of us dared to voice. Over the weeks, I lingered around him more. Sometimes under the excuse of volunteering at the hospital, sometimes just finding reasons to be nearby. Ethan didn't chase me away. He tolerated me, which in his world was the equivalent of trust. And little by little cracks began to show in his armor. I saw him rubbing his temples after sleepless nights, skipping meals because patience mattered more, standing too long on legs that should have been resting. I wanted to shake him, to force him to see that he wasn't invincible, that he didn't have to carry everything alone. But more than that, I wanted to tell him, "You don't have to die for me this time. Let me protect you instead." Only I couldn't. Not yet. It happened one rainy night. I was waiting by the hospital entrance, clutching an umbrella too flimsy for the storm. Ethan emerged, drenched, his hair plastered to his forehead. "Why are you here?" he asked, exasperation in his voice. "I was waiting for you." The words slipped out naked and raw. He froze. The rain thundered around us, a wall of sound. But in that moment all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. "Waiting for me?" he repeated slowly, as if testing the weight of it. "Yes," I said, my voice cracking. I don't want you to be alone." Something shifted in his eyes then, something I hadn't seen in either lifetime: hesitation, vulnerability. For a heartbeat, he looked like he wanted to believe me. Then he turned away. "You don't know what you're talking about." But his hands were trembling as he took the umbrella from me. That night, lying in my bed with rain still echoing in my ears, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about saving him anymore. I was falling for him. Again. The hospital lights never slept. They burned through the night like restless guardians, watching over a city too broken to heal itself. Ethan was one of those lights burning too bright, too fast, and destined to be extinguished if I did nothing. I knew the moment was coming. In my first life, it happened on a winter evening. A hostage situation at St. Vincent's, chaos spilling through sterile halls, and Ethan standing in front of me as the bullet tore him down. He never hesitated. He never let me take the hit. He chose to die so I could live. Not this time. This time I would step into the fire first. The night unfolded with terrifying familiarity. The masked men stormed into the hospital, their shouts ripping through the ward. Nurses screamed, patients cowered, and the sharp scent of gunpowder mixed with antiseptic. My blood turned to ice. I saw Ethan instantly. He moved toward danger, instinct driving him the way it always did. His white coat was a beacon in the madness, and I moved faster. "Stay back," I hissed, grabbing his arm before he could push past me. He glared at me, furious and unyielding. "There are people who they'll need you alive," I snapped. My voice broke, louder than I intended, trembling with the weight of 2 lifetimes. "Not as a corpse, Ethan. Not again." His eyes widened, confusion flashing. But there was no time to explain, because the gun was already aimed. The shot rang out. Pain exploded across my side, burning, tearing. I staggered, clutching the wound, and all around me chaos blurred into white noise. But Ethan caught me before I could fall. His arms were steel, unshakable, his heartbeat hammering against my ear. "Why?" he demanded, voice breaking. "Why would you?" I laughed, choked and raw, blood on my lips. "Because I remember, Ethan. I remember you dying for me. Not this time. Never again." His grip tightened, trembling as if the earth itself was slipping from beneath him. "You're insane." "Maybe," I whispered, "but I'd rather burn with you than live in a world without you." The police stormed in moments later, the standoff ending in chaos and arrests. The danger passed, but the damage remained. They rushed me into surgery, and for the first time, Ethan's composure cracked. He refused to leave my side, his hands bloody from pressing against my wound, his voice hoarse from shouting orders at nurses and surgeons alike. Even as they wheeled me away, I felt his presence clinging to me like a lifeline. When I woke, it was to the steady rhythm of a heart monitor and the unbearable weight of silence. Ethan sat beside me, his face buried in his hands. He looked wrecked, the shadows beneath his eyes deep enough to drown in. "You're an idiot," he said hoarsely when he realized I was awake. "A reckless, infuriating idiot. Alive though," I croaked, smiling weakly. His jaw clenched, and then his anger crumbled, leaving only raw, aching vulnerability. "Don't you ever do that again." I reached for his hand, fingers weak but desperate. "Don't you see, Ethan? I do it every time. Because you matter. Because I—" My voice faltered, but the truth pressed against my ribs until it spilled free. "Because I love you." The words hung in the sterile air, heavy, terrifying, irrevocable. For a long moment, Ethan just stared at me, silent and unreadable. Then, slowly, he lifted my hand to his lips. His breath trembled against my skin. "You're a fool," he murmured. "But if you're a fool, then so am I. Because I've been trying not to fall for you since the first time you walked into my life." Tears blurred my vision, but I laughed anyway. The sound cracked and beautiful. "Guess we're both doomed. Then we'll be doomed together." The days after blurred with recovery. Ethan never left, stubborn as ever, hovering with quiet protectiveness that made my chest ache. He scolded me for pushing myself, for joking about my wound, but his eyes softened every time he thought I wasn't looking. For the first time, I realized that maybe fate wasn't as merciless as I thought. Maybe Rebirth hadn't cursed might had given me the chance to rewrite our ending. Spring bloomed across the city by the time I was strong enough to walk without pain. One evening, Ethan led me back to the hospital rooftop where it had all begun. The sunset spilled fire across the sky, painting his face in gold. "I used to come here," he admitted, leaning against the railing, "because it was quiet. Because up here it didn't feel like the whole world depended on me." "And now?" I asked softly. His gaze found mine, steady and unwavering. "Now it feels like the only place I want to be. If you're here with me." The wind tugged at my shirt, cool against my skin, but my chest burned with warmth. "I'll always be here," I whispered, "even if the world stands against us." Ethan reached for me then, his hand firm and sure, pulling me closer until the space between us dissolved. His lips met mine, tentative at first, then fierce, as if he was memorizing the taste of survival, of rebirth, of a love neither of us could deny anymore. The city roared below, but up here it was just us. Two souls who had burned, broken, and found each other again. People talked, of course. An alpha doctor and an omega patient whispers followed us like shadows. But we didn't care. Every challenge, every prejudice, every wall that tried to separate us only made us fight harder. Because this time we weren't alone. This time we had each other. Years later, I would still wake sometimes, haunted by the memory of the fire, of Ethan's body falling in my arms. But then I'd roll over, and he'd be there warm, alive, breathing softly beside me. And I'd remember the vow I made after Rebirth. That no matter how cruel the world was, no matter how high the cost, I would save him. And in saving him, I saved myself. Our story wasn't perfect. It was jagged, bloody, stitched together by mistakes and second chances. But it was ours. And when Ethan held me on the rooftop, the city lights glittering like scattered stars below, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were finally living. Together. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.